tonight at Skipper Dippers in hometown. Boy, we've been very fortunate to be invited to some great places, and obviously this is another one, and another establishment that does a lot for the local student athletes, local kids, local schools, local teams. Skipper Dippers up here in hometown, and I hear they're staying open this winter.
Yeah, they're staying open this weekend. The hours will be 9 to 7, 7 days a week. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can hang out here all day as long as you're paying for it. You can stay here.
Yeah, again, outstanding. We appreciate the invite. Joe Pilla sent us a request to our Facebook page, and we obviously accepted, graciously inviting us up here, and even gave us some complimentary food. The cheesesteaks were outstanding.
Yeah, they're absolutely delicious.
Looking fantastic. And they're actually sitting there waiting for us, so maybe that'll speed up our, our recap a little bit. But yeah, great people up here. Thanks to Joe Pill and Bobby Gusty and the rest of the crew up here at Skipper Dippers for having us. Great people, great food. We're glad to be here. So here we are, week 10. Boy, hard to believe. Week 10 already. And we have some big news this week. We have a 2013 Anthracite Football League champion, the Jim Thorpe Olympians. Coach McGarrell rocking the retro Olympians jersey tonight.
Well, on last week's show, I said that if Jim Thorpe wins, I will wear a jersey again. I did that earlier in the year when I said Tamaka would beat them, and I wore Moxie's 1987, that's Richard Walk, 1987 retro jersey, and this week, I actually got a couple offers. I don't even know if I told you this, to you guys this, but Trisha McElmoyle, Marion graduate, great friend of ours, she offered a Marion jersey if Marion wins, and I don't know if I could do that.
I won't let you do that.
No, I'd never be able to face my friends back home in Panther Valley, but
we would have two on the show next week.
But luckily, I didn't have to do that, and I was looking for a jersey. I didn't want to go with the same one, so Kyle Parembo stepped up to the plate, and I appreciate this because I believe, I told Kyle, I said, I thought your jersey was retired. I said, so I appreciate you letting me wear it, and it fits pretty well. I see Kyle was held a few times. If you could see the holes in the jersey, but this is just a very exciting time for Jim Thorpe Olympians.
And Coach McGarville's got to be feeling a little down on himself. I mean, we're walking in here, people are seeing the back of that jersey, they're yelling, Kyle, 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 and he turns around, it's not Kyle. So Kyle, hey, you're still the man. They were looking for you when they saw that 44 walking down the street.
Yeah, and Kyle's one of the assistant coaches on the championship team this year.
Well, again, congratulations, Jim Thorpe. I mean, we talk a little bit more about that in our segment, where we talk about the Anthracite Football League champs and a little bit of the history of the Anthracite Football League. But boy, back-to-back 1-9 seasons. Nobody had them pegged this year. Nowhere near the top of the preseason coaches poll. And for them to put together the season they had, our hats are off to the Jim Thorpe Olympians, players, coaches, community. Hope you guys enjoy. You deserve it. That's going to bring us to our Week 9 recap. So we're going to start looking through these Week 9 games, and then we're going to come back a little later, take a look at the Week 10 matchup. So Week 9, we got Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain had a big matchup with Fleetwood, a lot of playoff implications for that squad. They came up on the short end, 34-27. That drops Blue Mountain to 4-5. As far as districts go, that's a very tough loss. Blue Mountain turned the ball over 5 times in this game, and that was kind of the story of the game.
Yeah, if there's one thing that stood out in this game, it was turnovers. And Blue Mountain, I don't want to say they beat themselves, but it's really hard to win when you turn the ball over 5 times. On the other attack, Will's rushing attack. They had Will Bornstein, had 149, and they had Will Horn, who had 139 yards rushing. So they had a strong game there by 2 of the running backs. And they had a chance late in the game to go down the field and possibly tie the game up, and they got stopped on their last drive of the game. And like you said, Coach, they're pretty much out of districts right now. They got Haven this week, but it's a single A squad, and the teams ahead of them there, it's going to be tough. So
right. And if you're watching this segment, you didn't see the other segments, we're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs and where we're heading. But in our district playoff segment, we kind of break down where all the teams stand. So check that out, and you'll know exactly where your team stands, and maybe what needs to happen, as far as we can tell, for them to get in. Moving on, we heighten Pocono Mountain West, the McCarroll Bowl. boy, big game in the valley, big game in the region, big game in Tamaqua. Even though it's Lee Heights poking them out in the west. Tommy McCarroll versus Uncle Jim. Lee Heights wins the McCarroll Bowl, and they improved to 5-4, greatly increased their district district chances. Huge win for Lee Heights.
Yeah, this was a huge win for Lee Heights, and it keeps them alive in AAA. Gives some family bragging rights for Tom, and again, it came down to the 3 C's scoring TDs. You like that, guys? I came up with that myself. But
that's pretty sharp.
Tyler Can, 10-yard run. Tyler Crum, 75-yard kickoff return for a TD. And then Clements, 2 touchdowns, including a game winner when the game was on the line. So those guys, names we've mentioned all year long, coming up big for them in a huge game. And again, we know they can't do it without the key, linemen and all that. And one guy I want to talk about is Nick Newton. We went back to the Deerfield game a few weeks ago.
And that was interesting. The end of the game,
it was debatable. Should
Sure.
they have kicked the field goal? To go up 10. They didn't kick the field goal. Deerfield comes back, scores on a 90-yard play or an 86-yard play a couple minutes later. I mean, it was crazy. There was a lot of debate going on. This week, Nick Newton had a huge field goal, 29-yard field goal in the second quarter of the game. They ended up winning by 2 points, when the game was on the line. And I know it was only second quarter, but that 3 points made a big difference. So that definitely was huge. But for me as a coach, the thing I love most about the Lee Heights team this year is Tommy McCarroll came in as a spread, throw the ball around like crazy, no huddle guy, and they've completely abandoned that. Not because they didn't believe in it, but because their personnel didn't fit it. They're a running team. Wyatt Clements is a stud. He's only a sophomore. He reminds me of a guy I had a few years ago, Justin Peterson.
Clements, he's active.
Oh yeah. He's like a youngie from Jim Thorpe a few years ago. That kind of stud kid. And they said, you know what? We're not a passing team. The other night they completed no passes. 2 passes only attempted, no passes, 0 yards, and they're pounding it down people's throat. And sometimes as a coach, you got to say, you know what I wanted to do wasn't what works best for these kids. And heck, in the game alone, between the 2 teams, there was 11 yards total passing. Some people don't like that, but I think that's football.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and we've sung Coach McCarroll's praises a lot this year. I think too many times you see that pride will get in the way of doing what is going to put your team in the best position to win. And they obviously that coaching staff abandoned any of their pride and said this is what's going to win us this game, and that's what they went out and did. And kudos to them. That's a huge win. And Lee Heights in a position you win, you're in.
Yep. We think so.
It looks like
I think so. Yeah.
It looks like
beat Jim Thorpe and they're in. And that's probably a problem.
And boy, if you come to the end of the year and it's the last game of the season and that's a playoff game.
Yeah.
So you're in a position when you're in, that's all you can ask for. So boy, that's going to make next week very interesting. We'll get to that when we get to our Week 10 preview. So Lee Heights beats Pocono Mountain West 30-28. Moving on, we have our first Anthracite Football League matchup, North Schuylkill and Panther Valley. Panther Valley travels up to Fountain Springs, which, as you found out, not a resort.
Not a resort.
Sounds like it. Not quite a resort.
We looked into it for our honeymoon, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, not the place you want to stay and get a massage and lay out.
Coach Davis is getting married in a month. 30 days from today.
Check out Twitter.
So North Schuylkill comes on top 41-28. They improved their record to 6-3. Panther Valley drops from 2-7. Just like we credited Coach McCarroll for adapting, looks like Coach Wally Hall is doing the same at North Schuylkill, and it seems to be working for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, talking about coaching there, as a coach, it doesn't matter how much you know, because if the kids that you're coaching can't do what you know, then it's pointless. So seeing a coach that says, you know what, I'm going to suck it up, I've been a midline and veer guy my entire life, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And you see that, and you got to respect it. And I'm sure the kids up there, I'm sure they appreciate that. They say, hey, coach is doing whatever it takes to win. And I mean, you look at it, North Schuylkill, the balance that they had. Smartcanic 11 for 95, Hummel 19 for 93. You're seeing his name every week.
Yep.
Grievous 8 for 67, Jordan 3 for 40, and I'm sorry if I say this wrong, Zahodnik 7 for 33. So I mean, you have a group of guys there that are just doing a great job for North Schuylkill. And hey, you look at it now, they're 6-3.
They're right there.
You know, they struggled a little bit here and there. They were up and down, but you look at that, they didn't punt the ball once this week.
And you look at the losses, you talk about them being 6-3, on the road at Jim Thorpe, in a game that they were ahead. Okay, they lose to Mount Carmel in a heartbreaker at the end, where they scored late to go up, tried to squib kick it with about a minute and a half left, didn't quite work out. Mount Carmel punches one in. And the Marion game, that was back and forth the whole time. So North Schuylkill, they're sitting there at 6-3, but they've been as competitive as anyone.
Oh, absolutely. They're a team that you say, if they can get in a playoff spot somehow, they have slim hopes for districts, but maybe an Eastern Conference, and they can build on a championship. They're a young team.
They were very young.
We talked about that earlier in the year, and then we think, okay, they're North Schuylkill, we assume that they would be great, but they're a young team, so they can build on what they're doing. On Panther Valley's side, one of the guys we've been raving about all year, Kyle Ferryman, he went over the 1,000-yard plateau at the very first carry of the game. You know, we love Kyle football. The thing we love about him, and he's one of the most confident players you'll see in the league. You know, he has a lot of ability, or he has a lot of faith in his own abilities, and rushing-wise, he's been outstanding this year, obviously going over 1,000 yards. But the other night, he had a great passing night.
He really did.
10 of 13 overall, very efficient. 7 of 7 in the second quarter when Panther Valley was still in the game. So Kyle's game has certainly developed from just a running quarterback to a dual threat. And Richard Nace had a nice game. He went over 100 yards, and now I believe if my numbers are correct, he's 93 yards from 1,000. And if that's the case, it'd be the first time in PV history 2 backs in the same year ever had 1,000 yards, and there'd be 2 of only 10 or 11 guys in PV history to break that 1,000-yard plateau. So kudos to those guys. But another thing, and I talked about the last 2 weeks, and hopefully not in a way that was critical of the staff and what was going on, but I said we got to get some other guys involved, especially young guys. And either the coaches are listening or they did this on their own. But Jake Suvek, 6 catches. All right, so that's obviously a young guy, a junior, getting involved. He had a touchdown. C. Keogh, who we've been singing praises of all year long, another touchdown. And our man-child, Ryan Schubeck, who we think is an outstanding athlete. He ended up having 5 rushes the other day, which is the most he's had all year long, and one of them was a touchdown, his first career touchdown. So it's nice to see some of those names involved too, in addition to Ferryman and Nates.
Absolutely, absolutely. Moving on, we've got Tamaqua and Minersville. Tamaqua, they improved the record to 6-3. Getting interesting there with Tamaqua. Minersville, they dropped to 1-8, and Tamaqua, boy, you wonder what might have been if they could have stayed healthy. It's unfortunate, but even overcoming the injuries that they've had, very solid 6-3 right now. Chance to go 7-3 next week.
Yeah, you look at this, and you look at 50-19. It wasn't as lopsided as you think. You know, Coach Mason said in the paper this is the best that they have played offensively all year. And I mean, they rushed for 244 yards. So Minersville, and the same thing with them. You know, they had some key kids get hurt this year. You know, they're probably as healthy as they've been all year right now. But I mean, look at Tamaqua. I mean, they were up 28-6 at half. They had 2 big turnovers that they created. You know, rushing attack. Tyler Hope had a huge game again on the ground, and he also had 103 yards receiving. I would expect to see in the Times News this week that they're going to have in their little Thursday night things that they do. When the last time a running back went for over 200 and he received for over 100.
I would love to see the last time someone did that. That just jumps out at me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, I mean, 4 total touchdowns there. Edmonds he's been solid.
He's been very solid all year.
Quarterback this year, he's been very solid. So, you know, kind of what we expected. You know, Tamaqua took care of business, but at the same time, Minersville, they're showing those late season improvements that, you know, lead into the offseason.
Yeah, for Tamaqua, you can't help but think, like, early on in the year, Hope was banged up, Vandermartin was healthy. Then Hope came back, Vandermartin got banged up. And oh man, if they had that dual threat all year long, who knows? I mean, who knows? We're always speculating, but that's what it's all about.
Yep. Okay, Shenandoah. Shenandoah played Delaware County Christian this week. They lost 21-19. Shenandoah had a real good chance to get their second win of the season. It was a very exciting game. At the end, Shenandoah scored, missed a 2-point conversion, and they had some shots at the end to come out on top, but they were just unable to. Talking about being healthy, another team that I believe is down a key guy or two, and Delaware County Christian came on top of that one, 21-19.
Yeah, Shenandoah's in a tough situation. New coach, this year, and obviously rebuilding year, but you gotta love the way they played. I mean, they come out, they get down 7-0 against a team that they don't know well, playing down in an area where there's not a whole lot of fans. Yeah, that Delaware Christian has 6 wins, so they're no pushover. Shenandoah goes down there, they play them tough, they get down 7-0, then they come right back and go up 13-7 on short touchdowns run by Ney and Gottschall, and then Delaware Christian comes back, and normally we don't focus on the out-of-area teams, but I had to throw in a cool nickname alert here. Knights quarterback Gator Grimm throws a TD pass that put them up 14-13. And probably the biggest play of the game, though, was Delaware Christian's Henry Miller picks up a fumble and goes 80-something yards with it to go up 21-13. 80-something yards, meaning Shenandoah was threatening, and a quick turnaround like that to go down 8. But Shenandoah didn't give up, and you gotta love that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a 1-7 squad, they could easily be packing the season in, looking towards basketball and wrestling. I don't even think they have wrestling, but I mean, they could be looking at other things right now. And to be 1-7, you go on the road to play a team that, honestly, it is what it is. But you go down there and they're scrapping, they're fighting the whole time. And I'm sure the coaches, they're working their tails off there. It's just great to see. I mean, they had a chance to tie this up. They went for 2 and didn't get it. But they were down 21-13 after that.
And they kicked an onside kick and got it.
Right.
Still fighting.
So, hats off to Shenandoah. That's one thing those kids will never do. They're never going to quit. And it's showing up on the stat sheets right now.
Yep.
So our next game, this game certainly would have been a game of the week if we didn't have the AFL title on the line in our game of the week, but Schuylkill Haven and Monoy, boy, this was a big one. And Monoy, after such a strong start, lost 2 in a row. Haven getting healthy. Haven, a team right now, nobody wants to play. We talked a few weeks ago about how big confidence is in high school sports, and you get the feeling with this game right now. Schuylkill Haven is a team that is just brimming with confidence. They know that they're getting back to full speed. They know that they can beat anyone. And Monty, you got to wonder if they're reeling a bit after those 2 losses, and they're hitting a tough stretch of that schedule. Schuylkill Haven, they beat Monty 42-12. Monty coming into the game hadn't scored an offensive touchdown in the previous 2 weeks, and Haven just came out and got the job done on this past weekend.
Yeah, you look at Haven. Will Casella had another big game. 16 carries for 113 yards and 2 TDs. But man, I'll tell you what a different team this is now that Ryan Fink's back and healthy. And I can't recall a guy that's contributing in so many different ways to a team other than Cole Weechak a couple years ago. For those of you that are AFL fans, you might remember Weechak from Minersville a couple years ago. I remember as a coach, I was an assistant coach that year. He was my vote for player of the year over Mike Gavel. And Mike Gavel was a great player. I thought Mike Gavel was the best offensive player that year, and Cole Weechak was the second best offensive player. But that year, Cole Weechak was the best defensive player. So those 2 things combined, you don't normally get that from one player. And we're getting that from Fink this year. 2 interceptions last week we talked about in a big game, but this week 14 carries, 125 yards rushing, 2 rushing TDs, 81-yard kickoff return, okay, a touchdown pass, and then he threw an interception into boot. These are defense, special teams, offense. He's getting it done on all aspects, and that's a team that is tremendously better because he's back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all knew it going into the year. You saw Monoy start to roll a little bit, and you knew the back end of their schedule was loaded. You knew they had these 3 big games coming up, and right now they.
And we've talked about, can they win 1 out of 3? Can they win 2 out of 3? I don't think anyone expected them to roll through this last part of the season.
Right. So
and they're the only team that beat the champs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you look at this and you're like, man, hats off to Haven though, because they could have easily backed it in. I don't care if you're banged up or not, but kids are kids. So hats off to Haven. Their defense held Monterey under 100 yards rushing. That's not an easy task to do. Dylan Maymod, he got banged up in the second quarter. Sounds like precautionary. They kept him out of the game. But still, with everything going on these days, everyone's going to play it safe.
Yeah,
so hats off to him.
Matt Yatsena.
Yatsena comes in, backup quarterback. He does a solid job, You look at it though, both teams are still alive for District 11 single leg.
Yep.
Haven is much better off now than Monoy, but at the same time, they're both still alive. Haven controls his own destiny, Monoy needs a little bit of help.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, who do you think in the A field wants to play Haven in the first round of districts?
Absolutely nobody. Nobody wants to play Haven in the first round of districts. Nobody wants to play Haven in the first round of states if they get there. Haven, what was their goals at the beginning of the season? You guys were up there.
They want to be playing on Thanksgiving.
They want
Practicing on Thanksgiving.
And that's all right there for them. It's all right there for them.
You could put everything beside that they went through this year. Losing a line, missing wood, driving up and down the field and turning the ball over and being banged up. Hey, you get in, your records are washed clean.
Absolutely, and they're peaking at the right time. And because of these injuries, they have other guys that got a lot of experience, so you got to think they're better prepared.
I think this was Coach Farr's game plan all year.
Oh, okay. We'll move on to our game of the week. The game that determined the AFL 2013 championship. We said last week there's two teams that control their own destiny. The Marion Colts, the Jim Thorpe Olympians. If the Jim Thorpe Olympians win, they are the sole champs of the Anthracite League for this year. If Marion wins, now we've got a situation where Jim Thorpe's going to share that championship and a few other teams have a shot at it. That point is moot. Jim Thorpe came out Friday night. Jim Thorpe took care of business, and Jim Thorpe is your 2013 Anthracite Football League Championships. It gives them sole possession of the title. They are 7-2 overall. They lost to Haven in a league game. They lost to Blue Mountain in a non-league game. One tidbit about this game, we'll talk about our performance of the week. My Heart Cole performance of the week. A kid whose numbers across the board might not jump out at you, but if you watch the game, his performance jumped out at you. Ryan Carroll from Jim Thorpe jumped off the screen at me where I was watching the game on TV, as we all were, and Ryan Carroll's performance, Jim Thorpe wouldn't have had the game that they had Friday night without him, wouldn't have had the season they had without him. Ryan Carroll, this week, my hardcore performer of the week from Jim Thorpe, helping lead them to the Anthracite Football League Championship.
That's a great selection. He's been doing great things like on Herald. Everyone's talking about RS2. Everyone talks about St. Hill. Like we talk about the big names, but Carroll week in and week out is doing great things, and that's a great selection. And like you said, we watched this game. We all got together, our wives and some kids, and we're family people too. We're not just football gurus here on the internet. We want to make sure we pull it all together. And we watched this game because it was an exciting game. TV13 did a great job broadcasting it. And one of the things that, to me, that really stood out was this game was a game where every possession mattered. It was a 14-7 game in the final, but man, I'll tell you, it's like every possession you had that feel like this was going to be the one to change the game, and that was pretty cool. And again, we can't help but talk about RS2. We talk about him every week here, Ryan Saunders Jr. But a touchdown run, a touchdown pass, 24 carries, 118 yards, 4 of 8 passing for 90 yards. Those are the kind of numbers that get the Black Diamond Award for the week, the Black Diamond Performance, and he gets it again. I think this is the second time he gets it, but certainly well deserved. Maybe the most valuable player on the championship team definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to Jim Thorpe. We talked in our segment coming up here, which you'll see in a little bit. The last 2 years, they were 1-9.
Yep.
And the kids stuck through it. They kept plugging along. And this is Jim Thorpe's 4th AFL title in 10 years. Now, they shared 1 or 2 along the way there, but hey, the hat's got to go off to the coaching staff.
Absolutely.
Well.
Absolutely.
It is so hard when things are going bad to keep everything held together. And the off-season went through, and I remember getting a tweet from Pat Davigno, early preseason, and saying, who's going to fill in? Who's going to fill in your shoes? And he mentioned RS2. and he said, kids are working hard, nobody's talking about Thorpe. You know, and it's just awesome to see that, you know, this summer, everyone thinks that they're going to be good. Everyone, you know, every school you go to, they all think, you know, hey, we got it this year, we got it this year. And then to hold that together, it's awesome.
Yeah, I like that little extra tweet there. That's not in the notes here.
That's not, yeah. I mean,
you're at living now. That's great.
Yeah, but I think the real star of this game was Jim Thorpe's defense.
Absolutely.
You know, we watched the game, and time after time they came up with big stops. And Marion's defense came up with some big stops too.
Oh, yeah.
That could have very easily
Goal
been
line.
a 28-7 game. They stopped Thorpe twice inside the 10 early. But Jim Thorpe's defense, they are my coal cracker defensive players of the week.
To the victors go the spoils. All three performances of the week.
Hey, if you
AFL champs.
If you don't like that, then hey, next year when you're champs, you'll get it too. But seriously, Jim Thorpe's defense all year, we don't want to claim them as Red Swarm, but at the same time, they do a fantastic job week in and week out. They don't get pushed around. Haven got their number last week. We got the red over
This
here.
guy was on a Red Swarm, right?
He was on a Red Swarm. They were
the original Red Swarm.
They were an extremely good ball club, and you know he was one of the best. But you know Jim Thorpe controlled the game. 18 first downs to 8. You know Marion, they scored one quick one right before half. A beautiful pass from Dean Richards to I think it was Nico Gasti.
Yeah.
You know, beautiful catch,
nicely.
beautiful pass. You know, and they went into half. It was 7-6 Marion.
Yep.
So, you know, hats off to. It was a great game.
It was.
Great game.
It was. You know, big game on a big stage, and that was our game of the week. Jim Thorpe comes on top, wins the AFL championship. So we'll talk a little bit more about.
I think our cheesesteaks are cool.
We're going to talk a little bit more about all the teams we just mentioned and go through and preview the Week 10 matchups when we come back. Once again, we're at Skipper Dippers in hometown. Skipper Dippers, they are now going to be open year-round. Where the hours are, Coach?
9 through 7, 7 days a week. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, come on up. Everything's fantastic. Great menu here. Great hospitality. You can stop in and have something to eat.
Right off on 309, right outside Tamaqua, on the way to McAdoo.
All right. We'll be back with our Week 10 preview. All right, we'd like to take a moment to look back at the past AFL champions, the Anthracite Football League champions, as we're congratulating our 2013 Jim Thorpe Olympians on their sole possession of this year's championship, coming after their Week 9 win against Marion Catholic. So let's take a look at the chart. We have it up here, so hopefully you can see it. We'll start down at the bottom. So when the first year of the AFL came into effect, Schuylkill Haven Hurricanes, 2002 was your first champs. After that, following up,
Yeah, we got Shenandoah, the Blue Devils, and yeah, you know, we did some colors here to show you the parity in the leagues. But then 2004, Mark Rosenberger's first A9 championship.
now coming back, we got Haven again in 2005. So you look at those first four years of the league. You had Haven winning twice, and Thorpe and Shenandoah splitting the other two championships in 2003 and 2004. 2006, we thought we might be looking at something like this year. We had a three-way tie, actually, for the AFL championship with Shenandoah, Marion, and Jim Thorpe. You look at those years in between 2004 and 2007, boy, Jim Thorpe had that red swarm in full effect. Jim Thorpe came back in 2007, won it again. So between 2004 and 2007, Thorpe wins 3 out of those 4 years, at least a share of the AFL title. Very impressive run there for Jim Thorpe.
2008, Zach Barquette. I mean, everyone remembers him, and you know, Haven comes out with a big win that year, and then it becomes North Schuylkill domination for 3 years. 2009, 2010, 2011, 35-game league winning streak in the mix there, and they were just outstanding.
And as Panther Valley guys, obviously that just breaks our heart because, you know, PV had 2 quality squads.
Yeah, we'd love to see a little black and gold on that graphic up there.
Yeah, and North Schuylkill, boy, they got it done in the games that mattered, and, you know, they had a real nice run there between 2009 and 2011. Then, looking at last year, boy, you have a team for the ages. I believe the only undefeated team, or the first undefeated team in Tamaqua history, if I'm correct, for the regular season. Tamaqua runs the table, 10-0, undefeated in the AFL, undefeated overall for the regular season, and they win their first AFL championship last year in 2012, which brings us to this year.
2013 Jim Thorpe Olympians. And I'll tell you what, I think the main thing that needs to be pointed out here, and we'll get our pointer going here, low budget as always, but in this year and in this year, these kids, the juniors and seniors, went through 1-9 seasons. And they persevered through that, and as coaches, it's a tough sell sometimes. You got to try to get kids to dedicate themselves to a team concept and that hope or that prospect of maybe winning down the road. And for those guys to keep those guys together, and for those kids, I'm really impressed with the kids. For them to come back, guys like Ryan Saunders, who suffered a very serious injury as a sophomore, and then labored through 2 1-9 years, for them to come back and put together a championship season when nobody expected it, that's impressive, and they deserve all the accolades that we can give them.
Absolutely, like you said, it's so impressive. I mean, let's face it, when you come off 1-9 consecutive 1-9 seasons, nobody is picking you to be at the top of the league. And even at times, I'm sure there's a little bit of doubt that enters your head as a coaching staff or as a player, and you got to just push that aside and keep working your tail off. And Jim Thorpe did, and they deserve all the credit in the world for this year's championship. We talk about a lot of these players all throughout the year and how impressed we've been with them, and also this coaching staff. You got to be very impressed with the job that they did. Getting them focused coming into the season, coming off those 2 1-9 seasons, and recognizing their players' strengths. And they have a lot of guys. We talk about ours too all the time, but they have a lot of guys out there that are really performing well, and it's a credit not only to those kids but also to the coaches putting them in that position.
Congratulations, Jim Thorpe.